Tired of paying 10%, 15%, or more to sell your cards, comics, and digital collectibles? How does 1% sound? Too good to be true? Well, not anymore. MySlabs.com is the web's premier user-driven marketplace for buying and selling slabbed cards, sealed wax, and now, slabbed comics and digital collectibles. So the next time you're forced to pay 10% or more to sell something from your collection, head over to MySlabs.com and join the 1% revolution.
What's up, everyone? You know what night it is. Wednesday night, off-centered with Dustin, the personal finance dad. And tonight we're actually joined by one, maybe two special guests. You know them from their podcast / YouTube series, Sports Cards Nonsense. So we'll be talking to Mike later, maybe his partner Jesse as well. So it's going to be a lot of laughs. We do have some news to cover as well with eBay authenticating cards now. What does that mean for the platform? What does that mean for buyers and sellers on eBay and flippers and all the different logistics that are involved, as well as SGC lowering their prices as well. And then today is actually Kobe Bryant's 2-year anniversary of his death of the helicopter crash. So we got to pay homage to Kobe as well. So really excited for this show. Thanks so much for joining us. Y'all know the drill. Welcome back. Now let's get to work. Let's bring on the boring guest, the one that keeps everything steady and slow and less exciting. Dustin.
What's up, man?
How's your week?
It was good. It was good. I was just watching you and I was thinking, man, I should have worn a Saints jersey in honor of the demise of my New Orleans Saints to kind of pair with your Bucks jersey there with our season's ending.
Well, it's a very disappointing end to my season, but I don't know what the Saints are going to do because you're without the quarterback and the coach. And it's like Bill Belichick, at least he's with the Patriots, and you know that he's a solid coach, but no Tom Brady, no Bill Belichick. The Patriots are like, who are they? And now the Saints, who are the Saints without the coach and the quarterback? So I don't know what y'all are going to do.
Yeah, we're like Zoolander looking into the pond where he's like, who am I? That's us.
Merman.
Yeah, that's Merman, Dad. That's actually based on your story, isn't it? Zoolander? Isn't that Brad's life story?
I wish, because he was actually a really successful model. He was doing really well.
He's so hot right now.
Let's say hi to a couple people in the crowd. Oh, I got to change this up. What is this? What is this like little block? There we go. Let's get no, not the bubble. Classic. There's classic. Good to see you. South Stands 303. Let's see who else is in the house. AJ Rose is here, all the way from I was going to say Canada, Japan. How about that? Japan. Stephen Ryan's in the house. Good to see you as well. Mike C. always here as well. Donovan Barnes, thanks so much for joining us. We'll definitely get our guests on in a minute. Well, in like several minutes when they actually join the live stream.
Hopefully they show up.
yeah. Hopefully they show up and this isn't just clickbait, because that would kind of suck.
Psych.
Good to see you, David Hunter. Special shout out to David for doing the newsletter that I just format in about 15 minutes, but all that great insight is from David Hunter. So I appreciate you, bro.
Is your like men's group, is that where you actually hypnotize people just to do what you need? Like David Hunter was part of the men's group. Yeah. He's like, wait a second. Who am I? Like, where am I? I've been doing this.
You will do my bidding. John. Yeah, absolutely, man. End of the season, but I believe Tom Brady will be back. The team was too stacked and they were too ravaged by injuries for him, and he played too well for him to call it quits, in my opinion. So I think he knows that if the offensive line is healthy, if the receivers are back, if he doesn't have a star receiver go down with a season-ending injury and then another star receiver prance off the field in the middle of like week 14 or whatever, then he'd be in a pretty good spot. So I'm hoping that TB12 will be back. If not, then I don't know. I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Dustin, because if Tom Brady leaves the Bucks or if he retires, we're kind of like back to irrelevance.
Yeah, it'll be back to the usual Bucks. They'll be calling John Gruden to come back.
I don't know. That would be interesting, just because John Gruden, it's not just like you're a good coach and you won a Super Bowl with us. Now it's, what are you saying about Roger Goodell and players and all that? So I don't know about that. But besides NFL playoffs and your Saints not being relevant for probably the next 8 years, what else is going on with you? Are you buying any cards? Are you looking at anything?
I have been. I've been going, and I put some of this on Instagram, but so like 2012 Fleer Retro PMGs. So like the 90s football PMGs are very expensive. The 2012, kind of the throwback to it, not so expensive. The downside is they're college unis. So some people are kind of like, I don't really like the college unis, but you can get guys like Joe Namath and Bart Starr and like Bruce Smith, legends that were not in the 90s sets. I have like Barry Sanders. He's in his Oak State jersey, but still Barry Sanders. I don't know. I just, the cards are awesome, honestly.
And then you bought a couple of Donnie's cards, our guest from last week too, right?
I did. I got a couple of the Simpsons cards. These are popular for basketball. The Platinum Portraits, like the Jordan card for this, is insane. This is from 97.
Are you stocking up on the SGCs now or what?
Yeah.
Why?
Just the price differential makes no sense. I'm just trying to buy scarce stuff. And if they happen to be in SGC cases, then great. I get a discount. That's kind of how I look at it. Like exquisite football. I've been going a lot of football.
Why so much football? Just the playoffs or what? You just finding deals?
I mean, I was originally a football card collector, like early on when I was a kid. So that's kind of my first love. But when I look at pricing compared to baseball and basketball for legends and for like exquisite and for like the same types of inserts and the same types of expensive sets, there's a price difference in football that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
So you're getting the better price difference on SGC versus PSA and on football to basketball.
Exactly. Yeah. I got this Troy, and then I also just got an Emmett, the Emmett Smith of this as well. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Cool. That's something. Okay. Well, look, we're going to wait for our guest to join the stream, which might be in another 15, 20 minutes. We're not sure, but when he joins, we'll bring him on. But for now, let's talk a bit about SGC lowering their prices, because we got that news. Oh, you know what? Actually, he just joined. Never mind. We can bring Mike on, and then we could all three talk about it. I think that sounds good. And Shane, I just want Brady to stay. I mean, really, at this point, Rodgers to the Bucs would be great as a second option, but I just love seeing TB12 in the red and pewter.
You guys are
Mike,
spoiled.
I am. What's up, man?
What's going on, man?
We don't want Aaron Rodgers, by the way.
So are you a big New England fan? Because I know you're a big Tom Brady fan, right?
I'm a total sellout, man. As soon as he left, I went to the Bucs.
He has that kind of power.
Oh yeah, when he's done playing, I'm done with sports. That's it. I have no more rooting interest. I have nothing else. Bird's gone. I don't care about the Red Sox anymore. And Brady's gone. Yeah, I'll be done. Totally.
What if
you're joking, but Brad is actually serious. The only reason why he's wearing a Bucs jersey right now is because of Tom Brady.
Oh, I'm the same. Yeah, I love the Bucs now.
Well, good. Awesome. Well, here's the thing. It makes it hard to even appreciate other sports, because I go, basketball, I'm a Tampa fan. I grew up in Tampa. So Orlando Magic, that was my team before the Bucs, because the Magic were relevant before the Bucs were relevant in the 90s. And then they broke my heart so many times with Shaq and Penny, and then later with Dwight Howard, who couldn't get over the hump against the Lakers. So I lost all faith in the Orlando Magic. And then it went to, okay, the Bucs are doing good. 2002, they won with Gruden. The Tampa Bay Lightning were exciting. They won in 2004. There wasn't a 2005 season, so I think of them as champions like by default. And then the last 2 years. And now I'm like, knowing Tampa is not a destination, let me soak it up every minute of it. And when it's done, I'll have so much more free time to do other activities.
I'm with you.
What kind of sports fan are you, Mike, where you literally had Tom Brady for 20 years? He goes to another team and you follow that team, and that team wins a Super Bowl. Like, that's another level of spoiled sports fan.
I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious. I feel like I'm responsible. I root for Tom and he wins, and if he leaves, I follow him. Yeah, I am. I'm so much more the guy than the team now. It's pathetic.
Well, hold on. Is it guy versus team, or is it Tom Brady because he is the man in life, right? It's like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's not just him, the actor. It's him, the businessman, the father, the actor, the everything, where there are only a few players that can transcend their actual sport and become someone that we want to latch on to, like, across the board.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair, because not only, it was a rooting interest, and I'm 35, so literally it's been 21 years of him now, my entire adult life. And then it became such a business hobby, collecting interest too. So at that point, it was just like, yeah, he was kind of everything. The Sox were huge for me as a kid, but when they won in 04, everything changed. Like it was just, that was the narrative where we were the lovable losers, but next year we'll get them, and next year. So it was cool. But then when they move away, it's like, I'm not going to watch 162 games. It's just tough to do if you're not living in the market. I live in Nashville. So yeah, Brady's kind of been the one guy who's been kind of the constant. And like the Bruins won the ring against, who did they, it's just pathetic. Oh, against Vancouver about 10 years ago. That was awesome. It just kind of waned for me after that.
Yeah, the way the Red Sox won in 04 was nuts too, because weren't they down like 3-0 to the Yankees or something?
Yep. Yeah, it was insane. And we knew the World Series, like, this isn't even a real game. We just beat the Yankees 4 straight. Like, that was the World Series. So now, yeah, it was kind of an afterthought.
So what's interesting about that, I feel probably similar to when the Lightning had the best record in the NHL a couple seasons ago. Best record ever. It tied with, I don't know what team, but it was like, you guys are going to just go straight to the Stanley Cup. They got swept in the first round by Columbus. This was the biggest upset in hockey history, where you have the number 1 seed by a landslide getting swept in round 1 to the 8th seed. And it was like, how is this even possible? And the next year they got some tougher guys, more bruisers, and were able to win. But it was one of those things where every year they got closer and closer, but that the contracts are getting like extended, and you can't hold on to all this talent. And Tampa, even though Steve Yzerman has done a great job building that team, and so did the owner Jeff Vinik, who I believe was the part owner or the owner of the Red Sox. I know some Boston team.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So Vinik, I believe, owned the Red Sox or part of it, and then also bought in on the Lightning. But it was amazing to finally get over that hump, because it seemed like no matter what they did, like they were screwed. No matter what they did, it was like injuries or just not good enough, or disappointment. And so I know the feeling. But
let's seg into an important topic, Mike. Online dating. So as you know, well, you might not know, we're working on a Hinge sponsorship here. It's not locked in yet, but Brad is on Hinge 24 hours a day.
Is this because Brad's a good-looking dude? I showed my wife these pictures, and I was like, I don't need to be on with some good-looking fella. I'm wearing my hat and my sweatpants. I'm not going to be intimidated by Brad. I'll tell you.
I comb my hair just for you. I usually don't comb my hair.
He's got like Dustin. You know that too. Look see, this is real 5 o'clock shadow, just like a dirty face. Brad's got like this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't shave today. I just happened to look pristine.
He was actually born. He was born like that. He came.
I hate attractive. Like I hate attractive.
I don't grow hair here.
Yeah.
Well, it's become one of our rituals now that I'm single, after spending the first year in I was going to say remote, pretty much remote, but a long distance relationship. Okay. Now I've been on the apps, and the way I feel about dating in LA is probably how you feel with Boston sports, where it's just like, I've seen the best and I'm jaded. And living here in West Hollywood, I'm like, I see the best every day. I'm jaded. I need 9.5s and above. Now, they might not look at me, but that's still the number I'm looking after.
Gotcha.
Brad's being boastful. He actually got catfished by a woman in Europe, and now he's trying to figure it out in LA.
but her pictures were great.
Hey, that's half the battle with the remote relationship. There you go. It's perfect.
I mean, I never saw her, but she sounded so hot.
He never saw her either. He just saw pictures. It's perfect. It's a win-win. So, right, Brad, you're in LA now, Brad?
I'm in LA, yeah.
Okay. Dustin, where are you? I should have.
I'm in Raleigh. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh, okay. Nice. Not far from me. Yeah. So we're heading to LA for the Super. That'll be my first time in LA. We're heading in a couple weeks.
Oh, nice. Are you going to the game, or is it like
No, so we're doing like the Radio Row thing for a day or two with the Ringer, and then we're hopefully with the Ringer, and then we've got the Panini kind of one block over Radio Row. So kind of just like a week of content type thing. So
well, if you hear a guy yelling your name from across a really tall fence, that'll be me.
Nice. Just surrounded by women who don't look like their profile picture. That'll be Brad.
He promised all these girls that I got a guy that's at the game. He can get us in. He can get us in.
I like it.
And I appreciate that, Jess or Brett. The cool thing about LA is that I could be 45, I could be 50, and that's pretty much the peak in a big city. Like, you could be, if you take care of yourself, build your career, do all that, you could be starting a family a lot later in life, and it'd be socially acceptable. Because back in Tampa, even though Tampa's a middle-sized city, if you're not like 3 kids deep by 28, then you're like an outcast. So I'm feeling pretty good here.
I just got puppies, so I don't know. That's my thing.
That's cool. Real quick, so let's talk about the biggest subject, and I want to make this light, but the biggest topic of the week, at least in my opinion, would be eBay's authentication service. So
Sure.
Dustin and I talked a little bit about that before hopping on. But I want to start with you, Mike. What's your take on this? What do you think this will do for the hobby as well as eBay specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious, right? Wording gets thrown around other areas, and it means one thing. I think as a hobby, we take some wording, some vocabulary to be super specific. They started talking about authenticating things. I just wonder, like, I'm not trying to knock CSG, and we have a big paid sponsorship with SGC, so I'll get it right out in front of that. I still use PSA, use BGS, a lot of good companies. CSG, though, I'm like, man, you guys fell so far behind because I did do that $9 sub, and it took like a year. How is it you have all this time now to authenticate stuff? Granted, it's not going to be a ton of stuff. It's only $750 to start with, and it's raw. I mean, I don't know how many people are buying cards like that raw on eBay anyways. And this whole thing of like, it's an extra 2 days. I mean, we ship 1,000 packages a week. It's not an extra 2 days. It's an extra 2 days at least each direction. So now we're talking 4 to 6 days extra, plus a couple days to authenticate. I just think in this market, a lot changes in 6 to 10 days. Yeah. So that part worries me. Is it going to help prevent some fraud? I mean, maybe. But I honestly thought, if you were going to roll this out, I would have just done a whole big thing with it. Hey, we're using this, and we're going to have a straight click-through option on the website. You have to do this no matter what, but for $12, they will grade and slab it right there for you as well. Otherwise, It's like somebody's just looking at the card and saying it's authentic. The buyer, the guy who gets that card, though, has no way. That doesn't mean anything if he has to sell it. So I don't know. It seems like it's just a big delay to me, mostly.
Well, didn't I read too that eventually they want to get to graded cards as well, as low as $250? So it's like, man, do I really? Because for me personally, if I'm buying a $250 or $300 card and it's graded by PSA or BGS or whatever, I mean, yeah, there's a chance it's a fake card, a fake slab, but like I would like the option to be able to say like, I feel good, or no, let's go ahead and get it checked out. I mean, because if it's mandatory, I just don't know why people would buy they would want to get involved in it. I mean, I just feel like that's going to be a hindrance. And like you're saying, logistically, it's got to be perfectly executed, because if it's not, then it's going to be a disaster, is what it seems like.
And your point is valid too. Like, so say you do buy a PSA card, it's over the amount once they're doing graded, and now all of a sudden CSG says it's fake. Okay, so now CSG is telling me one thing, PSA is telling me another. Where's I just think it opens it up for a lot of nonsense, quite frankly.
Well, I mean, that fits well with your branding.
Yeah, I'm full of crap. It fits nothing but nonsense.
And we'll be covering it at Sports Cards Nonsense.
Yeah. I was going to say, Dustin, that was literally the only point I had that I spoke to you about before coming on, is that
Stolen
it should
take?
be an option.
Oh, he just swiped the take?
I took my take. Oh, Brad, no. I just took.
See, that's why I have the stream. I have the ability to do that. There we go.
Actually, when we have guests, Brad's just looking to see who the new co-host is going to be. Really, that's really all.
This is actually just an audition.
I would have worn pants if I knew that. I'm just going to tell you right now. I would have worn pants.
Okay. So back to this, like, all right.
Brad wasn't sure where to go with the no pants comment. I understand. Let's move past that.
Any of us wearing pants right
That's
now?
not going to help the dating scene.
Yeah,
Me pants. Yep, we're good.
You got to keep the boys cool. You know what I mean? You got to keep the boys cool. But in terms of like CSG, does this actually help their perceived value? Because I mean, I know they're a credible grading company, but that doesn't necessarily translate into resale values. Because it looks like PSA is just the best grading company for the value of the card. BGS, it's like you're there, you're credible, but are you really keeping up? I don't know. CSG, the labels remind me of my grandma's medicine bottle that she keeps in the bathroom. It just like overly sized labels that I don't really care about. But does this do anything positively for them?
I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't put more slabs on the market. I don't think anybody's going to care who's behind the scenes authenticating it. And it's not a question of validity. They're a super valid company. They are the authority with comics, with coins, with a bunch of different things. So I don't think that's an issue. They have a hideous label. And so you can buy 9.5s for raw pricing. The sad thing is they have the best looking slabs. The actual slab, the super clear plastic, it is like unbelievable. The sonic weld is super clean. It's awesome. And they slapped this 9-foot tall piece of crap label in it.
Yeah.
I just
don't pull this up.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, that's what kills it for me.
Yeah, I don't know why you like this, Dustin.
What do you mean? I love.
Well, then again, to be fair, Dustin also wears sweatpants with business loafers. So if you ever see him at a card show, that is his go-to look. Look from the waist down, you'll see gray sweatpants, business loafers.
That's a bold move. I
or
like it.
Payne Stewart golf pants. That'd be cool. That's gonna be my new thing.
Now Payne could see that label, and I'll be honest, it's ugly with subs. No subs.
Space. Yeah. There's a lot of space without any subs, and then
So I still like BGS to me, still super clean. Love the label. I hate everything else about them right now because of how they're doing it. But same with like PSA, like I can get on PSA SGC, but the look of that CSG holder, I just it's rough.
I mean, I like the neutral colors of BGS. I think the thing with where is it at? With this, all right. So now you have green. Green doesn't work well with most cards. When I see this card, my eyes immediately go to this monstrosity on the top. Right. And I'm not even looking at the player or the card. I'm automatically looking at what is all of this. It looks like legal writing, like I'm reading a contract from a law firm.
Yeah, I think the green is from, I think it's their comic book slabs or CGC. You know, they're green, so I think that's why they kept the green for like a branding play. But
look at all this. Is this advertising spots? Can you like put an ad here? Place ad here?
You can put another card there.
Actually, the PFD logo is going up there soon.
Yeah, so to me that's out.
But to Mike's point, the actual like slab part is perfection. Like,
awesome,
really nice.
Yep, super clean.
Okay, so we got that. So it's not going to help them in terms of eBay. It looks like they had to do this move just because it's like any fraud or any scams make everyone look bad, especially the platform that allows it and does nothing. I feel like they had to do something, or how's it going to make them look, even if it's not that much more beneficial financially? You know what I mean?
Unless CSG can do, like, unless they tie in, and maybe Mike had mentioned this earlier, but if they're, I think you did, where they're tying in the grading part. So it's like, okay, the card's already going there anyway to get authenticated. Sure. Fine, for an extra $10, go ahead and slab it, and then we'll go from there. That would actually make sense, I guess, in some cases, but that could help them because it's just more CSG slabs getting out, assuming they can handle that flow.
That AJ guy just said, too, they're going to rework the label. I'll be honest with you, AJ. I think his last name was Rose. You have rose-colored glasses, sweetheart. They have been talking about that for like a year. It's a piece of paper. If you're going to do it, just do it. They talked about this. They wanted to pitch this last year to us at National. And it was like, dude, I can't. No, it's hideous now. Change it and we can talk. It's 8 months later. Like, what are we doing? Just get a different color.
I imagine so much of the Amazon rainforest would be saved if they just used a normal size label.
You're killing trees. This is what you want to be known for, CSG?
Disgusting.
The main reasons for deforestation, meat and CSG labels and fast fashion. That's it. In that order.
I don't know what that is, but yep, I agree.
So let's talk a bit about your show and how this all started. So like, let us rewind a bit. Like for people that aren't familiar with you and your partner, how'd you get into cards? Who are you? And how did this all happen?
Yeah. How did you and Jesse meet too?
So that's my wife's cousin. Yeah. So we've known each other. I've been married 13 years. A couple years into our marriage, we started hanging out with him and his wife. So we're super close. They live around the corner. They're just kind of like, they're like our COVID bubble friends too. Like kind of the people we've been hanging out with the whole 2 years we've been shut down. So a couple of years, I had been breaking since 2016. I left my job, started doing 2-3 days a week, kind of slowly teetering off the construction as breaking started to pay. And then come January of 2017, it was like, hey, we're all in. Like we needed to come up with a huge down payment on 2017 Bowman. That was our first direct purchase. We paid the money for the licensing, the insurance, get the business set up. And back then you could walk in with zero spend history to a distributor and just get a case of Bowman for $600 a case. Now it's like $400,000 to $600,000 to get on the books. Just burn it, and then you can get allocation. 2017, you walk in, and they were happy to do it. They were actually cutting prices at that point. So that was our first big order. I maxed out a credit card on a cash advance. I borrowed money from my father-in-law, and we came up with $16,000. That's what it took to do that back then. It was insane. And we did through everything we had at the first product. The breaking went nuts, took off. I was actually working for a guy. He was the breaker, Bruce Breaks, good dude. He lives here in town. I broke with him for like 2 years, kind of first behind the scenes. Then I got in front of the camera. We split it. Eventually just kind of outgrew it and went off on my own. I just named it Geo Breaks because I don't have any creative ability. So Geo Breaks seemed easy. Did that for a few years, and then I sold that in August of 2020. So right after COVID started, I was like, I just don't know. I hope this thing goes good. But we had, at that point, $1 million, $2 million worth of inventory a year, a business that was making that much annually anyways. I was terrified. So I just told my wife, like, I think it's time to walk. Maybe it comes back strong. And of course, it just shot through the roof as soon as we sold.
Man, that's an incredible rise, though. Talk about like, a startup, and then you just hit it like perfect timing.
I mean, to sell Bitcoin at 20,000 a piece, if you bought in at $1 a piece, or you know what I mean? It's like, oh man, but it could have gone higher. But at the same time, going back to that period, August 2020 was the first major bubble, and then we saw another one in March. But to run the numbers, to start that early and make things really make sense, and then get out when you're happy, I think is just a great way to approach any investment. My question is, going back to that first investment when you're maxing out the credit card and you're borrowing money, that sounds scary, like super scary for a lot of people, because this is like, hey,
absolutely,
a lot can be lost. What gave you inspiration or confidence that it would pan out? Like, why would this be a risk worth taking?
Yeah, so not to be negative, almost every business decision has been driven by spite. So back then I was a breaker. Like, I just like to buy into breaks. And I saw these guys doing, I was like, these guys are hacks. Like, they don't care about the customers. They're not good at what they're doing. And they're making okay money. It's fine. But I was like, and then I just happened to come across this guy who lived in the same town as me. I think I sold him a card on eBay. I printed the label and I was like, dude, he lived a half mile. I was like, I'm coming to your house. I'm just giving you your card. Oh, I do this whole breaking thing here. So it kind of worked out. But yeah, that was the thing at the beginning. It was a ton of money. I mean, it's different now. Like, now everybody's a baller in the space, and we have, 6-figure cards and all that crap, and that's fine. But back then, $10,000 in the bank was like unbelievable for me and my wife. We were like super happy. Like, hey, we can pay our bills month to month. We're good. So the loan thing, I was like, we looked at his financials. I was like, what are you making? This thing's clearly trending up. If we started just buying direct from distributor instead of buying from blowout, what are the margins there? If we buy, our first order was 68 cases. So I was like, if instead of buying 10, what if we buy 20? If we buy 50, what's the price? It really came down to just the mathematical. It's all just numbers. Super boring, but it was like, this is a great hobby. I'm putting money on the line. Now I need to see financial detail. What is the return potential? And it just so happened to be the timing was great. Let's be honest. I mean, we were good at what we did, but we weren't unbelievable, and it wasn't a new idea. The timing was great. Bellinger and Judge took off. Kevin Maytan happened to be this unbelievable prospect, even though Acuna is the guy in 2017 now. We were chasing Kevin Maytan then. The first product came out in April. Bowman came out. It was 5-6x what we paid. And we were like, man, we got it. And then all of a sudden, everybody wanted to get into breaking. So everybody was ordering. The only difference is, we have $100,000 spend history this year, which, again, at the time was somewhat of a big deal. So it just snowballed. Hey, we have profit. Let's buy more product. Our spend is going up. We'll get more allocated product. But it just came down, me and my wife, we had a lot of talks about it. And it was just one of those things. This is something I like to do. I don't know. I was 30 years old, we had no debt. We didn't have any money, but we had no debt. I thought, if we're going to do something, let's take a shot now. And if we blow our 10 grand, okay, we'll work and make it up in the next couple of years and go from there. But, it was just kind of hey, let's take a risk and see what happens.
Now, are you still doing breaks for fun? And then also I wanted to ask you too, were you already, as just a card collector, just buying cards previous to this? Did you have a lot of Tom Brady stuff prior to 2018 because you're a Tom Brady person? So I have to ask it, because I'm in my mind, I've got these visions of you with all the like nasty Tom Brady stuff that you got for like pennies. But how did that work out?
Locks of hair, used underwear, all the nasty stuff.
Oh man,
Brad, of course, Brad had to go there.
Make a pillow out of that stuff. That's the money.
Brad's got all the
Quilt.
weird memorabilia.
Make a quilt of all the locks of hair you've found.
Dustin, turn his video off.
Lotion in the basket. All right, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I was a collector as a kid. That was kind of like me and my dad's thing. It was typical story. Parents split, so every other weekend I was with my old man. Yeah, what am I supposed to do with this kid? Went to the card shop every other weekend. Card shop until I was like 14. I was a super nerd in high school. Couldn't get a girlfriend or have a friend. I mean, I was a total loser. So I was like, I can't also be a card collector. I'm already getting beat up. Like I can't also collect cardboard. So I got out of it from like 14 to 20. I actually still had all the stuff I had at the time. But then when I turned 20, I sold everything to pay for my engagement ring for my wife. It was like $600.
Big mistake. Horrible mistake.
Everything I had to get the ring. We got married in 2008. About 2-3 years later, I started just kind of dabbling, getting back into cards. And I did Brady's were my thing. I remember, and again, talk about timing. In 2014, when they beat Seattle, I was like, hey, hon, I've been buying this stuff for like 4 years. It's worth like $20,000. This is incredible. So in one night, everybody has this unbelievable story. I don't think many people, unless they're lying, have as much of a beating in a night as I took. I probably 5x'd my money, so I was thrilled. But over the course of, say, 72 hours, I sold my 2 8.5 10s, my 2 9 10s, and my 7.5 championship ticket. So the 8.5 10 Brady Contenders auto hit $1,500. We're buying those for $600 all day. I'm out. Those are $40,000 now. There were 2 of those. The 9 10s hit $2,500. We were paying $1,100. Sold them both. Those are about $110,000 a piece. The 7.5 10 contender, or 7.59, excuse me. There's not even been a sale recently. I think I sold that for $6,500. Huge money. That's probably $400,000 to $500,000 now. And then I sold the 7.5 Bowman Chrome Refractor. Same thing. It's probably 100, 200. I don't even know. 100,000. Sold it for like $5,000 and was thrilled. So I had all these awesome Brady's. The Seattle game, I was like, we can't go anywhere but up. And yeah, sold almost everything.
I didn't mean to hit on a sore subject there. They're like, thanks. Now I got to go back to therapy tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mike, on a scale from 9 to 10, how much resentment do you have towards your wife?
No, negative 1,000. Yep. And I'll be honest too. Like people always tell these like horror stories like that, and I'm like, I get it. Like I could have made a ton more money. We needed the money at the time. It kept everything else going, and then it ended up snowballing and giving us like that 8 or 10,000 we needed in 20. So I'm kind of like, I don't know. The only thing I really regret is Prism. We had a deal with Fanatics at the time, which when Fanatics started getting in cards, when I got terrified, they made Prism the Zion year. Super quick. I'm sorry. I'm just ranting here like an idiot. They made Prism Fanatics a specific SKU for just Fanatics that year with Zion and Ja. They only made 350 cases. My rep got me 52 cases at allocation at $20 a box for Prism. We sold it the day it came in. Like, unbelievable. And now, like, we do the numbers. That is the only thing I actively keep up with the numbers on what those retail boxes go. It's like $750,000 to $800,000 in leftover profit. Today's value. But anyways, sorry.
Oh, that's great.
Back to Tom Brady hair. I apologize.
Yeah.
Well, I keep thinking of Ted. I think it was the second Ted movie. Was it the second Ted where they try to?
I only saw
Mike, you must have seen the Ted movies.
Is that the talking teddy bear? I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I've
It's
not
like
seen
the most
one.
Boston movie ever. It's Mark Wahlberg. Yeah. So
Wahlberg dropping his R's on camera for no reason. I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
Well, there's a Tom Brady reference where they look to him as like a god, and they go and try and steal something very sacred and special of his from his body. At a certain point, it's a hilarious. It's a role that I was surprised Tom Brady took part in, but it was hilarious. So if you guys know if that was Ted 1 or Ted 2, let us know in the comments section. But okay, so now are you out of breaking professionally? Like you just enter breaks for fun, but you are just completely done with.
No, so yeah. So in August when we worked the deal, I did kind of have some interesting, I did kind of think, if it tanks, it's one thing, but I think this might actually keep going. So I sold 80% of the business to a guy, Eddie. So Eddie runs it day to day. He's done awesome with it, way bigger than I ever had it. So I own 20%, and the agreement is kind of, hey, once or twice a month, come on and break stuff and mess around for fun. But it's for fun. I mean, we can still make money on the cases, but it's not like hey, I've got to break 15 cases today, 10 tomorrow. It's like I'll do 2 cases, go live and give away some crap and yell at people and have fun. And yeah,
Yelling's
totally
the
just
best.
like a fun day now.
So is your full-time gig now, it's sports cards nonsense. You're a media guy now. So how did that all come about? Because you're hooked with the Ringer, right? You're locked in with those guys. How did that all come about?
Yeah, and I will make this one quicker, I promise. So yeah, I sold the breaking company. For the first few months, helped them transition. Like, hey, here's all the customers. So I was pretty hands-on. But after that, I had nothing to do. We bought and flipped a couple houses, like just because, like, hey, let's diversify, and that's kept going. But I don't do anything there. We buy it. We got a guy who I'm partnered with. He does everything. It's great. So I was like, I need somewhat of a day-to-day thing. And again, just spite. I was like, there's so many guys with microphones in this space. I'm just like, I've never seen any of these guys at a card show. And when the camera turns off for half of these dopes,
yeah,
he was watching
Brady. He was watching some, especially my old videos where I was in like a prison cell with
I got to see this now. Prison cell.
Yeah. Well, the first videos, it was like nothing on the walls. Actually, nothing's changed. There's nothing on the walls back there.
For the first 150 videos, Dustin was staring at himself in his phone versus the lens. So he's like, hey guys, let's talk about cards.
But see, I'm good with that. Yeah. I can deal with that. I don't care, but it's genuine. You're not trying to be something you're not. I just felt like I was like, man, there's other big name guys in this, hobby. And it's like they come across as like these cool, awesome guys, or like these, just all American great dudes. We're here for the hobby. And I'd seen some of these guys at shows, and as soon as the camera went off, I was like, you guys are frauds. And if I was 10 years younger and in Boston, I would have lost my temper and just lost my mind with these people. So I did. I was like, hey, let's start a podcast and just make fun of people. And that's, I hate to say, that's what we started doing. I would just rip in on some content guys because I had fun doing it. And we made it funny, but we did probably 6 or 8 episodes. Jesse produced it, which took a whole day. I mean, he had never done it before. And then we got a message from Chris Vernon. He's a big guy on the Ringer. He's got a big thing here in Memphis with the Grizzlies. He said, hey, would love to talk to you. I said, cool, we'll talk. He's like, hey, we heard the show. We like cards. I want you to talk to my boss, Bill. He kept saying Bill wants to talk to you, this Bill. But finally I asked who Bill is. He said Simmons, which
Simmons.
Bill Russell would have been nice. Yeah. Jesse thought Bill Russell was Bill Simmons for months, as a matter of fact. He had no idea.
Belichick.
Yeah, no, that was way over Jesse's head. No chance. I was like, yeah, of course I'll talk to Bill. And the story goes, and this is true, even though it sounds made up. Hey, I'm going to call. Bill texted me. I'm going to call you at such and such time tonight. I forgot it's a time difference, so I went jogging because I was like, sweating. I'm excited. Like Simmons is going to call me. This is nuts. Get home, take a shower, and the phone rings. So I just shut off the water, stood in the shower, and talked to Bill for like 30 minutes for like this job interview. Thank God he didn't FaceTime me. And yeah, that was it. He's like, hey, we like the space. We think cards are growing. He is a huge collector anyways. He's like, we want to get into making some of that content for the Ringer. And that was it. We did like the legal back and forth and the contracts and setting up a corporation. And we started that in January of last year. So about a year ago, right now, last week of January.
What's been your take, like your overall, because before this, you had never done a podcast or YouTube or any of that stuff. What's been your takeaway just from being a content creator kind of full time?
It is difficult to be consistent. There's guys I cannot stand, but they're consistent. And I have to at least give them like, hey, see, I like what you guys do though.
Brad, he's not looking at me. He's looking more towards you.
I'll be honest, you guys come across as genuine to me, though. That's what I like. I like guys who are like, if the camera goes off, is it still Brad and Dustin? I feel like when I'm watching you guys, this is how you guys probably are. You don't take yourself seriously. I like that. I don't know. I enjoy authenticity. But yeah, that's been my one thing. It is tough to be consistent. I mean, it's not easy. And YouTube is a foreign country. Our podcast numbers are awesome. We do really good there. The sponsors have been great. It's been awesome. We just started YouTube the first of the year because we got a big deal with Panini. It's brutal. I mean, our views are horribly low, but it's become like this new challenge. Like now, I'm like, we have to make something decent for YouTube. So yeah. Anyways,
that's interesting because we're trying to cross over to the podcast game.
I think it's way easier. I think what you guys do is 1,000 times more difficult than a podcast.
Well, a couple things. So if you're out there and you're a content creator or you want to be one, look, you have Instagram, which is just a picture. You have Twitter, it's a thought. You have written articles. video is combining everything and saying, hey, I need you to pay attention to me for 10 to 20 minutes when you have every high production option out there in the world. So you can't just listen to me. You have to watch me as well. It's very tough, but that's also why the top YouTubers make $25 million a year. And I think Ryan's World was that, the kid that opens the toys, he's worth more than the athletes that are on the cards that we collect. So if you can climb that mountain, good for you. Dustin and I were actually talking about a podcast project that I'm getting involved in that we're looking to put Off-Centered on as well, or at least having discussions that will be shot at SoFi Stadium. And we're waiting for the Super Bowl to end because there's a suite there that my partner will have access to. But that's where all of his podcasts are being shot at. But we have to wait for the Super Bowl to conclude so that he can have his suite back. So
Brad said he's going to pay for a Super Bowl commercial just to promote, like a preview of it, right, Brad? Sure. You're good for that, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Hey, we talked about this, Brad. God, like you don't give it.
As long as you hire Dustin as my assistant. As long as Dustin's my assistant, this will be great. So I'm leveraging Dustin a ton.
That one picture that you jacked up of me and you always put on your videos, it's going to be on like the Jumbotron, and that's it. That's going to be the commercial. Like, what the hell?
That's just going to be the logo.
Yeah, it's the logo.
I'm going to have to bring it up so Mike sees it. And this is an actual photo. So keep talking, but it's really important that I bring this up now that Dustin mentioned it.
I like what you said, though, by the way. You guys are getting into the podcast thing. I think it's a super logical next step. And I think you'll find it easier. Our next step is trying to build out the YouTube with other creators. That's kind of what I've told Jesse we need to be. We work with a sports agency now. I said, just find other people in the space and let's just reach out. Hey, we'll pay you. Come do what you do and do it under our umbrella. And we kind of can try to build out a mini The Ringer type thing. So that's the end goal.
Do you have access to, through Bill and kind of through that network that you're a part of with athletes that are collecting cards? Like, is it possible to get like a Giannis, or I know Giannis is a monster, to have as a guest, but I mean, there's a lot of athletes that have big social media followings that do collect cards, or buy into it. I don't know is that a thing?
Very little. So, I mean, we're definitely one of the smallest, listened to podcasts at The Ringer, so that we don't get a ton of the trickle down. Like we got Gary V. That was totally through The Ringer. He came on. That was cool. But a lot of the other people, AJ Dillon, not the biggest name athlete, but I was like, man, this dude is more involved in the card space than almost any other athlete. He came on. But now that we're hooked up with Octagon, the agency, they are the ones who have really helped to hook us up with some big time people. So like Bobby Witt Jr. is coming on. Our YouTube drops tonight. He was supposed to come on tonight and rip, but he's going to be on next Wednesday. We're filming tomorrow. So Bobby Witt's coming on next Wednesday. They've got a couple other pro athletes. There's a football player and a tennis player. I got to confirm it before, but that's kind of been our angle more with getting athletes than The Ringer has. But Simmons has been cool to come on. He's come on like 5 times. So that's been cool.
Awesome. What's your take on? Go ahead, Brad.
Well, I just want to share that picture of Dustin before I forget. So, that's really the priority here. Hold on a second, guys.
I got to see this picture.
Oh, man. Where is it? I lost it. I'm going to have to go back to it. All right, keep talking. Oh, there it is. Hold on.
I'll wait.
It's worth waiting, guys. And I got to hide the comment, too, so it takes up the entire screen. This is good. This is a random.
This is going to be a halftime show at the Super Bowl.
Sure.
And it won't get old. I think that's the coolest thing is it won't get old. Where are you at? Okay,
everyone in the stands is just going to be looking at this for 30 minutes.
Why do you have this picture?
This was Dustin's dating. This is his Hinge profile.
It's just
what profile? Is that the dating thing?
That's Dustin's dating profile headshot right there.
Are you guys both single?
No, I'm married.
Oh, I was gonna say, Dustin, I'm not trying to be critical. This particular picture,
it just weirds me out that this is like the wallpaper on Brad's phone. That's the thing.
And in real life, there's a room in that house out in LA that's just plastered with his face.
It's creepy that you have this like you like quickly can get to this picture. It weirds me out.
Because if you're ever feeling down, if I'm ever feeling down, it's a rough day. It's raining outside. I'm feeling sluggish. I had bad sleep the night before. All I have to do is look at this picture for a second and my spirits are lifted. Plus, I created a fake dating account with this picture and a fake name. So I just want to see what kind of.
How does it do? Any hits on that?
Yes, but 5s and below.
Brad stole my identity just to have a second dating profile.
It's a social experiment.
Yeah. Somehow I'm pulling more babes on Hinge than he is.
How did you guys get together, by the way? How did this happen? Living across the country.
YouTube. It was kind of like what you were talking about. It was like, oh, another content creator. I was like, his stuff is garbage, but he seems to be picking up steam a little bit. So why don't we have a conversation?
I like that.
Make an NFT. Dustin's face NFT. You know what it reminds me of, actually? It reminds me of Andre the Giant's face in the Obey logo. Like, please tell me you know what I'm talking about.
Well, just Andre the Giant is probably that's
just in general.
Yeah.
I was thinking the character at the end, Goonies. That's where I was going with that. Is it Sloth? Is that his name? He was a hero.
I got to look at Sloth now.
Yeah,
is that the name you put on the dating profile? Is just Sloth?
I got some pictures.
Activities, hanging out in the forest. Oh man.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I got to do what you guys did. I got to just start reaching out to you because that's what we want to do. Like build out the TikTok, the Instagram, all that crap. Have people
we met in person the first time at the Dallas Card Show in May, and that was the one that was kind of leading up to the National, where a lot of people went to that one because we weren't.
Keep talking.
Hey, you guys. Yeah,
it's hard to focus. It's hard
Superman. He's rocking the headband. Sure. Tragic details. Don't tell me he's dead.
Oh wow,
he's a heck of a guy.
Way to go, Brad. Way to go.
Sorry for making this a downer. Okay,
he's a good guy.
Half the chat just left. All right. Where were we? Where were we?
Good question.
Brad, I
don't
know how to save you after this, Brad. I don't know where we're going.
You know, it was worth the break of focus. It's okay. That was well worth it. I have to show Mike that and everyone in the audience. So you're welcome.
I am curious though. So you said you met in Dallas. So this past year, less than a year ago?
Yes.
Okay.
So it started with, hey, I have a live stream of Cards and Cake, which is my thing because I love my epic cheat meal, which now I still have every week, but it doesn't fall on a Wednesday. So it's usually a Friday.
Well, yeah, Brad tries to look cool. He fasts for like 5 days and then he has a whole cake. And he's like, I can eat this cake and have abs.
It's a model diet thing. You starve yourself, have black coffee for an entire week, and then you splurge on a lot of cake, but then you throw it up. So it all works out in the end.
Jeez, man.
But look, I had a live stream. Dustin has like every hour new content in some form or fashion. And then I ended up inviting Dustin on once. I think maybe Dustin invited me on once. And after a while, it was like, hey, we have good banter and rapport. Let's just keep going. And Dustin's always up to date with everything that's going on in the hobby every single day for his, three bi-hourly content or whatever. So I'm like, Dustin, what happened this week? Let's talk about it.
Gary Vee said you have to put out 37 pieces of content a day to be relevant. And so that's why I put out 75.
He says, he didn't say you had to shut down YouTube servers by oversaturating it.
We need some of that. That's what I need.
Give the people what they want, right?
Sure.
So what, Mike, what's your goal with the podcast now? Do you have like a vision for 3 years or 5 years from now, what you would love to be doing and what you'd want this to turn into ultimately?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately for me and Jesse, if it turned into, and I'm hoping the podcast just keeps how it is. I mean, we love the podcast being super card-centric, card-heavy. That's why we kind of branched out with the YouTube, though, because our vision for the YouTube is let's make this into such a brand. And with the partners we have on board, I think we can do it eventually, that it just becomes almost like the variety hour. Like, I think if you can make yourself the draw instead of the subject, then you can do whatever. Joe Rogan is not the most interesting guy, but everybody likes him. So no matter what he's talking about, it's a draw. Now, granted, Joe Rogan is an unattainable thing for somebody in my space, I think, completely. But Simmons the same way. Simmons can talk about every single sport, but then he'll do the rewatchables, and he'll do a thing where he's talking about vintage TV. Nobody cares about vintage TV, but they like the man, so they follow him to do that. So me and Jesse really would like to build out the brand to be that eventually. And then specific with the card side is we want to build it out so that it really becomes more of a news type, almost like a news type network. We're building out a huge studio here in Nashville. Like I said, I want to get other people in on the content side so that when something happens, there's not 50 tweets and 30 guys going live who are like, hey, my friend maybe mentioned this. Well, no, in our Rolodex, we're calling, like Jason from Panini we talked to. Jason's on the board. He's in the room when it happens. Or we're talking to Josh Luber direct. I really want it to get to that. in the card world, because I think there's room for just authentic, unprejudiced news, because I don't think you get a lot of that in the world either this way. Everything is slanted one way or the other. I think it'd be cool to just have something that when it comes to actual news, take the personality out of it, just give somebody an unbiased, factual story. But we're a long way from that.
By the way, how the hell did you get a hold of Mark's cards? I saw your one show where like you guys
just picked up the phone.
And I was like, I wonder if they planned this out or like how'd they do it? And it was like, it was actually kind of amazing that it worked out like that. That was cool though, because that was definitely like on the fly and it was cool.
Yeah, like that's the type of stuff we had heard from 50 different people. Oh, it's not even him. This is cool. Let's just get the guy on the phone. Now, granted, it's a fluke he picked up, and that spineless weasel didn't say anything of meaning on the show, but he picked up. But I would like it to be that type of an organization. You know, hey, Panini's making this massive move. Cool. Come on the podcast, the YouTube show with one of the creators under us. Break the news there. Let us be be that avenue, that funnel for it. So that's the ultimate vision. But yeah, we'll see.
You know, one thing that I think that you did right, and something that a lot of content creators strive for, is that cards itself are very volatile. There's a lot of unknowns. The players, they're new, they're young. Maybe they're going to be the next Tom Brady or LeBron, but there's just a lot of investing in other people and investing in these objects that we don't even know how much of them exist. We don't know what the long-term appeal of that set or insert would be. But at the end of it, it really comes down to, if you're inspired to create content in sports cards or anything else, you're investing in yourself and your own brand, and you're investing in your skill set, you're investing in your relationships, but you're really investing in like, who can I be in this space? What can I represent? And that's when, I mean, me and Dustin have talked about it. Like, one day we'd love for ESPN to have its own show. And hey, who are they going to go to? Well, they're not going to just take resumes. They're going to be searching out, well, who's on Instagram, who's on TikTok, who's on YouTube. These are the people that have audiences and they have their visual resume out there. So, I mean, and that's why it's like, guys, if you're in the audience and you've wanted to create content, then it is tough. It is hard to be consistent. It's hard to be original. But if you learn these things, whether it's in cards or anything else, there's opportunity down the road, and it's becoming more and more based off of these personal brands and audiences versus like, I got this education and this is my certification and stuff like that. So we saw that for a while.
The one thing that's great is now to be like a TV personality, all you have to do is have a camera and just become popular on one of these platforms. You don't have to go, it's kind of like what you said, Brad, you don't have to have a journalism degree and, oh, great, I got a job at CBS and now I get to start my careers and like work my way up to be an anchor. Now we're all essentially the anchor. You know, we can just got to build the audience if we can. That's it. But it's nice that it's open to everybody, though.
Yeah, I don't know that like Logan Paul has like a formal degree, and I think he's a clown in a lot of respects. I don't know anybody who markets better than that guy. Period. I don't know if he ever has had any formal training. I know he has people in place who help. That guy can make anything unbelievably successful. He's got 50 million people watching a Pokemon case get opened. There's something to be said for that.
Well, I mean, I put him in the Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor category, where it's just like, you are a marketer above your actual talent. And you could be extremely talented, but as talented as McGregor and Mayweather are, their marketing, just like Kanye West or something, like your marketing of yourself, it is bigger than your actual talent. I did want to bring up this one question by Jamie, because it's actually related to cards. So I figured we might switch it up and talk about sports cards. So real quick, Jamie, it sounds like you're in the hobby, you're just joining, and maybe you just stumbled upon this live stream. Let's answer this question for him. For someone who does not have a single card but wants to start, what is the best way? Let's just start with one tip that you would have for any newbie. But let's say Jamie, who's just like, hey, sports card sounds cool. I want to invest. I want to collect. What would I do first? And let's start with our guest, Mike. What would you say?
First thing, I mean, just very generic. Why is always my question. What are you trying to do? If you're trying to invest, cool. Here's the next 10 steps. If you're trying to get in because you just love it, it's nostalgic, awesome. Here's the next 10 steps. If you're trying to get in because it's an activity for you and your kid. So that's always, to me, that's always the first thing. What's the purpose? Why are you getting into it?
Yeah, agreed. I would say the same. And, what sports do you like and what sports do you like to watch? Because I think that I don't know, not that you necessarily have to only have cards of sports that you watch, but I think it kind of helps. I don't know. We're just players, even past players that are retired that you looked up to or whatever. There's got to be some sort of, it helps for there to be some sort of a sentimental, something to it as opposed to just buying random cards.
Yeah. And I think this was a great comment by Brandon. Go around to your local card shops and shows. And I wouldn't even be necessarily like, putting $100 or $200 down at first, because it's extremely easy to spend money on cards once you get going. It's extremely easy, and that's always going to be there. But immerse yourself in the community first. Look at what's out there. Make sure that, okay, man, are you sure you want to invest in or collect football players or baseball or whatever? Because there's a lot of variety. Maybe it is Marvel, maybe it is Pokemon or something that you didn't even realize exists. So my big thing at first, especially on the investing side, but collecting too, is if you can just window shop for 3 weeks and do research and look at all the varieties and look at the grading companies and just get familiar with the basics, I think it'll also build a muscle too, because it's really easy and exciting to spend right away. But a lot of times that's when we go overboard and then we go, oh man, I wish I had learned that lesson, or I wish I didn't buy that BCCG graded card, or what VMA awards or GMA awards. I don't know what they got. All sorts of award companies that have acronyms that are also grading companies. But the point is that 3 weeks of education, because it's so fascinating, unless you're talking about a couple dollars. But if you're talking about, hey, I want to drop $500 on cards or a couple $100 a month, be so fascinated with the research side, at least for a couple weeks, until you're like, okay, I avoided buying a lot of these things I would have found exciting day 1, day 5, day 10. Now I have a better idea of what I want to collect, what and why, or what do I want to invest in and why, and stuff like that.
Fair enough.
Boom, there it is.
Yeah, what's your take, Mike, on card shops, breakers with Fanatics taking over? I know this has been kind of talked to death a little bit. It's all speculation, but any kind of insights on that? Do you think that they're going to take over direct to consumer and all this stuff goes away, or what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, so let me just answer it very blandly. What Luber has told us directly that we had on air. He wants to make sure there's always a space for card shops, and he wants to make sure they have a pipeline. So I have to think there's a deal in there for them, like whether it stays how it is, just constant product. That's a guy who built StockX, for the sneakers, for the consumers. So the card shop is kind of just a physical version of that. So I think card shops are going to do well. I hope, at least from what I've been told. The breaker relationship too. I mean, we asked him specifically there, and he made the same thing. He thinks they're necessary, but he doesn't think they're all necessary. And I agree. There's some breakers who do nothing but get cases and flip them to blowout for 80% markups. Cool business. How is that contributing to the community or to the break world or to anybody in the card world? It's not. So I don't need those guys getting product anymore. Breakers who just have horrible ethics. We see that every week now. There's a breaker getting called out because they're a donkey in one form or another. I don't think people like that need to have allocation anymore. If you told me you're taking that away, fine. And I would love to see a little bit more direct to consumer at attainable prices. So I think it's positive if you are somebody who has put the work in and built a community and built a brand. I think he's going to continue to make sure those guys are taken care of.
Do you see Fanatics? Because I thought of this myself. I'm like, what about Fanatics having their own breakers? What about them having their own in-house breakers? Maybe they're people in the hobby now with good reputations. Maybe they bring on retired athletes or current athletes, people that are like, hey, this would be exciting if this athlete in the offseason did breaks. Because, again, what are you bringing to the table as a breaker if you're not a trusted name, or you're not someone that people can relate to and want to join a break? If Tom Brady, I don't see him doing breaks. I would say Rob Gronkowski would be someone that I'd say,
Absolutely.
man, I would love to see him doing breaks. And he's the personality who'd be like, hell yeah, I'll do breaks. If he's like, yo, this is for Brad, the comeback card investor, we got nothing. But at least Rob Gronkowski said I got nothing. You know?
Rob's the one who stiffed you. Who cares? I think there's a massive. I'll be honest with you. There's a massive space for that. That is literally the entire segment we're going to have on a weekly basis. When Bobby Witt comes on, it's to break a box for people. Again, the other athletes, and once it's inked, we'll come out with it. This football player's coming on. We're breaking football. I think that's a massive thing that is missing. I think has huge appeal. And I think that's how you bring sports fans into the sports card world. I do like that. In terms of them, I could see them hiring breakers. Where it gets tough is I don't think that I think Geo Breaks is probably in the top 20 to 30 annual revenue for breakers in the country. Probably in that range, maybe a little bit higher. So here's where it gets tricky. If they tried to go out and bring breakers on, you're going to have to pay these guys. I mean, we have been so spoiled making 6 and 7 figures and setting our own schedule and doing whatever we want. How do you then say to that guy, hey, come on, and you're going to come on and pay breakers millions of dollars? I mean, maybe they are. I can't imagine a world where why would you grow it yourself, right? I would think. But if they did that, I mean, you look at some of the huge break rooms, they're making 10, 15 million a year in profit. How do you get that guy to now come under a company? So now you're going to kind of be an employee. You know, any company like that worth billions of dollars, there's going to be HR concerned. Hey, what content are you putting out? You said this word last show. You played this song. Right now we have freedom and we make a ton of money. It's hard to get someone like that to give both of those things up. So I think there's a breaking element, but I think if they do that, it'll be totally new. Just guys you've never heard of. Here's the product. Go out and build your following.
Well, if they've got the Cornhole Championships drawing ratings on ESPN, then I'm sure that people are going to watch breaks.
Of course.
On ESPN or whatever. I mean, I don't know.
I think what you do is you make – I think you do the high-end breaks, the stuff where it's like, okay, flawless. It was a $10,000 box of flawless. You don't want to see Prism –
Bowman. You don't need to see Bowman get ripped. It's so super boring.
Well, also, it kind of makes it look bad if you're televising something where, okay, that was a horrible box. That was a horrible box. But if you know, okay, everything's going to be autographed, jerseys, swatches, everything. And maybe it's not the household names, maybe they're rookies that aren't going to pan out, but at least it's like, hey, this guy had a great college career. He was a second-round pick. At least it's a really cool card. I think there's potential there. In terms of the breakers, it's like, hey, well, we're Fanatics. We're the distributor. Either you work out a deal to break with us and we work this out together, or we're not giving you product. So goodbye. I mean, that's the way I could see it working if they wanted to.
Yeah, very possible. Yep.
I like this question from Coach Pat here. Yeah, if Mike could change one thing about the hobby in its current state, what would that thing be? Not to put you on the spot.
No, that's fine. Self-serving. I would get rid of influencers, which would also affect how much money I make for the content I put out. But yeah, I think the influencer thing has.
I would eliminate content creators. Right.
Yeah. No, not content creators, but influencers. Yeah,
but big time influencers.
What does that mean exactly? Well, what's the differentiator?
So a good example. Gary V is a guy who financially, I really appreciate his advice, even as a younger, 8 years ago. Very practical, very applicable, things I could put into practice. So what happens? Gary V gets super into cards, right? He's not pumping cards, but he's talking about them all over the place. Well, that's the same thing. If you're talking about it publicly and you're one of the biggest social media figures, you're pumping something, whether it's malicious or totally for love of the sport. I don't care. It is what it is. We reached out to us as soon as we got in the ringer, comes on the show, wants to talk. Fantastic. Love it. So what happens when a person with influence talks about something? Well, people are going to follow him. And so what happened there is he happened to be talking about it when you could go out and buy any card in the world and make money on it. Well, in the last year, I would argue anybody to put up their resume and cards and say, you've done really well on investments. Hasn't happened. It just hasn't. I'm about as good as anybody I know doing that. And I know that's arrogant to say, but it's true. And I've gotten crushed on stuff the past year. So when we have these influencers come in and make, they talk these things up, all of a sudden prices spike. Cool. These 50 guys who have $1,000 to spend came in and bought $1,000 card. Now it's worth $200. So did the Gary V's help grow the space? Sure. Did they also take a ton of those people and leave a bunch of malcontent people here after the fact? I think that happened too. So if we could get rid of, that's also on the people. It's not just on the people with microphone. If you're just blindly following, I get it. But we're also being told, again, just to pick on Gary V. Gary V is boasted. He's pumped up as the guy you listen to. He's the guy you can follow. So if I'm supposed to listen to and follow this guy when he goes into a next area, I want to be first. Let's get in early because I heard his first interview about cards. And I think it led to a lot of people getting hurt. I think that's why we saw such a harsh correction the past year. I think it was going to correct either way because of we're going out now. We're spending money going out to eat, going to, movies, whatever. But I also think there was a lot of that. People came in here and got burned and felt like they kind of got sold on some hype.
Do you think that it's better? So if you're a person like him, in your opinion, is it better to never talk about that sort of stuff? Or is it better that if you do kind of start kind of putting gas on the fire, that you stay with it in the sense that you kind of continue talking about it and just say like, I'm still buying cards or I'm whatever. Like, which one do you think makes the most sense?
So for me, I mean, this is one of the few times Simmons was very hands-on with our content. The first month we did a segment where Jesse, who was just larger than life co-host, was like straight cash homie. And he said it in this funny way. And it was like cards I thought were actually kind of cool. That's a good question, by the way. Oh, good comment. Gary Vee helped a bunch of guys in the hobby. He helped them come in. And I think he left a lot of people high and dry. So no, that's not what I wanted. I don't need a bunch of malcontent people. I was doing good with what I had. But anyways, Simmons' big thing with us was, and I think some of it was because of legal at Spotify as well. Hey, you guys are mentioning these cards specifically as a good buy. And that's what it was. We'd buy it on the show because I thought it was cool. This Emmitt Smith. Well, prices were going 3, 4, 5x by the time the episode dropped. So the point was, hey, you guys have some influence here. I need to know. And he told us, I want you to show everything you've got now. And we did a whole show on every single card I owned that I would ever even think about selling. What I paid for it, what my plan is, when I sell it. So if you're going to get into it at all, I think you have to be super transparent about it. Motives of why you're buying stuff. We also got away from giving out financial advice, even, hey, this is a good buy, bad buy, whatever, for that reason. But then, like you said, Dustin, then stick with it. Like if Gary, because what happened? NFTs got hot, and all of a sudden I got a guy drawing a picture of a lizard and selling it as an NFT. Like, that's cool.
That's not even as good as Dustin's NFT.
Not even nearly as good as Sloth NFT.
I've got some incredible Sloth NFTs coming, guys.
That's what I'm saying. There's a whole series I'm excited about. I think we should talk about it. I want to buy into it.
It's still here. It's still here, guys.
There it is.
Someone NFT to screenshot it, guys.
It's minted.
Yeah, Beeple is selling these for $1 million a piece.
That's light. That is way light.
I'm keeping this here for another 10 seconds so people can take a screenshot of their computer. I think it's Command-Shift-4 on Macs, and then feel free to share this around Instagram and make this the new viral trend.
Hey, when this is the currency in the metaverse, I'm going to be the one laughing. I'll be the one laughing. You'll still be spending your US dollars.
I hope I'm dead when that happens. My God.
You know what's going to be great is it will be a currency, a very valuable currency, but I'll be making a fortune off of it, and you won't make a penny.
I'll be the only one that can't buy any of it of my own face.
Yep.
Real quick, though, I do want to defend Gary Vee in this sense. I think Gary talks very much authentically to him. And I think at first, when I started listening to him, I thought, I don't believe he realizes the degree of influence he even has when he speaks. So even when I create content or write my newsletter or whatever else, I'm like, disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. I mean, I'm trying to because there's a point where it's like, of course I want to talk about players and cards that I'm excited about or would sell or whatever, but it's always like, because at this price, I would make a profit. At this price, I believe it's low for me and my style, and I could be wrong, but it's like, I also feel like we're in a culture too where people don't want to take responsibility for thinking for themselves. So, and it's both.
Yeah. To your point though, Brad, the next week though, if that same card you just bought and you say, hey, I bought it because I want to collect it or to flip it, whatever. But the difference is your content the next week, you're probably going to mention, oh, by the way, I bought that KD last week. It's down 80%. There's your disclaimer, shows you what I know. I've seen some of you guys both. I don't do a ton of research because I do like to kind of come in fresh, but I've seen you do like reviews of your own stuff before. Months later, as a matter of fact. And I'm not trying to just pick on Gary, but we asked him that exact question when he was on the show. Hey, overrated. We used to do a thing like overrated, underrated, I think, which is what he does now. Pretty sure he stole that from us, by the way, but it's fine. I'll let that one slide. Your influence in the hobby. He was like, oh, no, overrated. And I think he was being genuine. So I struggle with that. He's a pretty sharp guy. You don't know you have a lot of say in what's going on in the hobby right now? Again, and I don't think it was a malicious thing. I just think if you're going to make a ton of money in the space, and all of us have, I think it comes with some accountability. And so, yeah, to a degree, I do. I hold him. I hold a lot of people accountable for that. I hold the same people, though, right now saying, hey, these are the top 5 buys. Cool. People buy them and they get crushed. Where's your, hey, I'm a dummy and I listen to this guy. Where's that take? We don't see a whole lot of that. So anyways.
Yeah.
See, once you get me ranting, you should have done what you did to Dustin. Just kill the video. I'll go play with the dogs.
Well, I got to say, I earned $4.99 from B. Harris And it's because of you, Mike. So I appreciate
Those are
the
great.
super chat. B.
Probably my
Harris.
wife. She made a
No,
name.
B. Harris was trying to buy an NFT face of me.
It better be more than $4. B.
We
Harris.
put that on a T-shirt for the national. Guys, put in the chat if you'd love for Dustin's face to be turned into
a side by side.
A side by side with sloth, maybe sloth on the back. Tell us in the comment section if you would buy that shirt for $25. Maybe we have a couple hundred of them produced.
Brad's literally going to have a table at the National selling T-shirts.
So will you guys you guys going to the Atlanta show? You going to the Super Bowl? Anything out there? Or what?
Yeah, Brad's not going to any shows. Unless
I will be trying to jump over a fence at one of the fences at SoFi Stadium for the Super Bowl. The Mint Collective would probably be the next show, the next big one, just because here in LA, Atlanta seems like a way too far.
Sure,
I'll be in Atlanta.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we're going to Atlanta. It'll be our first show in a couple months. Then we got the Mint Collective too. So nice.
Awesome. Okay, we'll do.
I like Brian Sherland. I like that guy.
Yeah. We should probably wrap up, Brad.
We should. I did want to mention.
I told Mike like 20, 30 minutes. I kind of lied. I'm like, just pop in for like 10 minutes.
I don't have a job. I don't care. It's fine. I'm retired.
I appreciate you hanging out for this long with us. I did want to mention Kobe Bryant passed away 2 years ago to the day. So I know Dustin wasn't a big Kobe fan, but his death affected all of us. Well, I mean, like I wasn't a big Kobe fan before either. So Mike, what's your Kobe? What would you take away from his death, his life, just in a way to honor, everything he brought to this world?
Yeah, I mean, Kobe was good. I mean, Kobe was my guy growing up. Even though I was a Celtics fan, he was always the best in the league kind of thing. So, yeah, I'm a little too young for Michael. I remember him, but not much. So Kobe was kind of the first. Obviously, it was Larry just because where I lived. But, yeah, Kobe was kind of the guy to me. So, yeah, I mean, pretty unbelievable player. I think we've certainly moved him up in rankings and value since he died. I mean, I don't know that before this he was a top 5 guy, but that's okay. Yeah, I mean, big loss, obviously. Hate to, I don't have too much of a connection. I never met the guy. I don't know. I'm the wrong person for emotional stuff. I make jokes and they're terrible and I get people canceled. So I would just say this. When I throw something away, it's still Kobe. When me and Jesse throw a piece of paper away, it's literally Kobe. Like that's how much of an impact he had on I think like my generation and a little younger.
What about you, Dustin?
I'm a little bit older than you guys. I'm 40. So I was a Jordan guy. I grew up with Jordan and I did watch Kobe. I mean, I remember him. I remember the Shaq Kobe years, those like that, the first 3 titles. Those are kind of my fondest memories of Kobe, but I was definitely a Jordan guy growing up. But yeah, I think just as a dad too, you think about, it's basically like every family's worst nightmare is like, a parent and a child lost, it's like, and then of course it happens to be a huge person in the world. Yeah. I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah. And it's funny because when I remember when I saw the news that he died, and I was never a Kobe fan because I was never a Lakers fan. And it always stemmed back to when Shaquille O'Neal left the Orlando Magic. And that was my first heartbreak as a kid because Shaq was my dude. He was my dude. And for him to leave Orlando, little Disney World Orlando, where no one would really come to, versus New York, LA, Chicago, these big cities. And I was always very bitter towards the Lakers, to Phil Jackson, and to Kobe because he stole my hope of winning a championship as a Magic fan. So I never cared for the Lakers at all. But I remember when he died, I was really taken back. And this was 2 years ago. So I don't think I was here in LA yet for the second time. But I remember being like, oh my God, I'm going to miss the personality that he was, like the Mamba mentality, the personality, the things I saw and was starting to learn about him off the court more than anything on the court. Because on the court, he would just beat my team. He beat the Magic in whatever 2012 or whatever, and that was the closest the Magic got. Yeah. So to me, I was just like, that is. I don't know. I'm still a bit taken back because here in LA, there's a lot of murals all over the place, and you see the impact he had here. So I could see it in other people's lives and on their walls, all the outside of the building, stuff like that. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. I think he kind of falls into that Tom Brady category of who are you off the court? What are you bringing to people's lives outside of just the games you're winning, the points you're scoring? I think we just started to see that in the first part post career. So just wanted to pay a little homage to Kobe Bryant. guys, definitely check out Mike's station with Jesse, Sports Cards Nonsense. So podcast, big Instagram as well. YouTube station is now what you're focusing on. Where else should people follow you guys?
Right here. This is it. Off-centered, man. I'm all in.
Awesome.
Every week.
The YouTube's the big one. Sports Cards Nonsense YouTube. We're putting out one weekly show until we can con other people into coming on and making content for us.
Just please don't air it Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific.
Wednesdays at 9. It's coming out late.
Don't do it.
This is brutal. We have a scheduling conflict already. This is not good.
Awesome. I appreciate you joining us. Guys, thanks so much for all the engagement in the comment section, and we will see you guys next time.
Tired of paying 10%, 15%, or more to sell your cards, comics, and digital collectibles? How does 1% sound? Too good to be true? Well, not anymore. MySlabs.com is the web's premier user-driven marketplace for buying and selling slabbed cards, sealed wax, and now slabbed comics and digital collectibles. So the next time you're forced to pay 10% or more to sell something from your collection, head over to MySlabs.com and join the 1% revolution.
Bye.